All right, the Destroy Trump media, the Democrats, they are so over the moon. The special counsel, the conflicted Robert Mueller, is going after Paul Manafort after earlier today we learned that the FBI conducted this pre-dawn raid at Manafort's home back in July. Now, of course, the left-wing partisan press, they're foaming at the mouth, hyperventilating, jumping to conclusions, running with wild innuendos. Now, as it turns out, Paul Manafort, he did make a major error, major mistakes. Instead of cooperating like Paul Manafort has been doing, well, why didn't he just delete 33,000 emails? You know, the emails that probably dealt with a wedding, a funeral, yoga, emails to his wife who maybe didn't have an email. Why didn't he delete them all? And why didn't he acid wash them with bleach pit? Why didn't he have somebody smash his mobile devices with a hammer? Why didn't he just turn over all of his cell phones and BlackBerries to the FBI, except just remove the SIM cards in them? After all, that worked for Hillary Clinton. She did that. Or maybe Paul Manafort. Maybe he should have threatened a federal official at a public hearing on tape for daring to gather evidence. That worked for Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And why didn't he just follow her example? After all, the Daily Caller's reporting that her aide smashed a hard drive, something he denies, and put of course, the broken up government property hard drive inside of his garage. Or what about this? Maybe Manafort should have simply refused to hand over any documents at all. Why? Because that worked for Eric Holder during Fast and Furious and that scandal. Or maybe Manafort, maybe he should have met with the Attorney General on a tarmac for 40 minutes and just had a little private discussion about their grandchildren, because that worked for Bill Clinton and Loretta Lynch. Now, the Destroy Trump media, the Democrats, they're such massive hypocrites when it comes to law and justice in this country. All of those examples clearly prove it. Now, Paul Manafort, he did make a huge mistake. Paul Manafort should have followed the examples of Hillary Clinton, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Eric Holder, and Loretta Lynch. And Paul Manafort, he gets a pre-dawn raid. What did they think he was going to do? What the Democrats did in 5 minutes at 5 a.m.? You know, bleach pit, it probably takes a little bit longer than that. Smashing devices, that's hard work. That takes a long time. Now, they've completely ignored this massive Democratic scandal, scandal after scandal, that we've been reporting on this program night after night that the rest of the media ignores. They don't want to tell you these things. And as we have seen, the media is ready to literally jump to every conclusion and put Paul Manafort behind bars. Now, the problem is this Russia collusion witch hunt has now gone on for 11 months. So far, it hasn't produced much of anything. Where's the smoking gun? Where's the mountain of evidence that you have been promised day after day? The hysteria, conspiracy theories. So now what we have is the media cheering on Robert Mueller, who's conflicted, and hoping he finds something, literally anything. Also tonight, the Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, he's actually blaming President Trump and his excessive expectations as the reason why he hasn't enacted the agenda you voted for. Now, take a look at Mitch McConnell making this ridiculous excuse to his constituents. It's pretty laughable.
Part of the reason I think that the storyline is that we haven't done much is because, in part, the president and others have set these early timelines about things need to be done by a certain point. Our new president had, of course, not been in this line of work before, and I think had excessive expectations about how quickly things happen in the democratic process.
He hasn't been in this line of work, in the swamp, in the sewer, doesn't understand the legislative process. Okay, this is beyond unbelievable. And the president, to his credit, he responded on Twitter. He wrote, quote, Senator Mitch McConnell said, I had excessive expectations, but I don't think so. After 7 years of hearing, repeal, replace, why is it not done? Now, Mitch McConnell, you have lived in this D.C. sewer and swamp, obviously, for way too long. And here's the thing that Mitch McConnell doesn't seem to understand. President Trump, he didn't set those excessive expectations. Senator McConnell, you did. Republicans did in the House and the Senate. You promised over and over and over again, over 7 years, that you were going to repeal and replace Obamacare. You couldn't even get the skinny repeal done. And Speaker Paul Ryan, he sat down with me in February. He promised that Republicans had a 200-day plan to get all kinds of the Trump agenda and all these items done for the American people. Well, guess what? It hasn't happened. So, Senator McConnell, my message to you. If all you're going to do is whine like a 10-year-old and complain and make excuses and blame the president for your failure after 8 months of him now being in office and you have in the House and Senate, guess what? It really is time to drain the sewer and swamp. You know, Mitch McConnell, have you ever had in all your years in politics an enthusiastic crowd like President Trump? I doubt it. The American people voted for this president's agenda. He has an identity. He has a plan. He's fighting every day. What do you even stand for at this point? He wants it enacted. He has a pen in hand. Senator, if you can't get it done, get out of the way. Retire. Leave Washington. Go play golf. Go fishing. And then, of course, you have people like Senator John McCain. Now, after casting the deciding vote to kill the effort, even the skinny repeal and replace Obamacare, well, McCain is back to criticizing President Trump for his tough words against North Korea. He lives to criticize President Trump. Now, he's saying that he's not sure how President Trump's tough rhetoric is going to help. Well, Senator McCain, you know, perhaps would you like to explain your comments and jokes supposedly about bomb Iran back in 2007? Did that help that situation? You might remember Senator McCain doing this.
That old Beach Boys song, Bomb Iran, you know, bomb, 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 bomb. Anyway,
Senator McCain, you've also, in the course of your career, you've called for military intervention, let's see, in Libya, Syria, Ukraine, North Korea, and Iraq. And there's these comments from Senator McCain just a couple of weeks ago on the Senate floor. Senator, look at your own remarks.
I hope we can again rely on humility, on our need to cooperate, on our dependence on each other, to learn how to trust each other again, and by so doing better, serve the people who elected us. Stop listening to the bombastic loudmouths on the radio and television and the internet. To hell with them. They don't want anything done for the public good. Our incapacity is their livelihood.
No, your inaction, your incapacity here, that's your problem. You made the promises, and your inaction is frankly embarrassing. And you made these promises, and Americans are suffering. Here's the thing. If senators like McCain, McConnell, Collins, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, you guys want to obstruct the entire Republican Party's agenda, the president's agenda, just like the Democrats, and then make excuses and cast blame here, there, and everywhere about why you can't do your job and fulfill your promises, well, I say it's now time to clean house. Let's put in new leaders in Washington who will keep their word, keep their promises, serve the American people. You know what? All of you senators, you should lose your chairmanships. We should put leaders in those positions in Washington who care about the American people, that have a sense of urgency about the 50 million in poverty on food stamps and the millions and millions out of the labor force. Finally tonight, President Trump, this is a crisis. His administration, they're not backing down amid the growing tensions with North Korea. Earlier today, President Trump took to Twitter. He said, "My first order as president was to renovate and modernize our nuclear arsenal. It's now far stronger and more powerful than ever before. Hopefully, we will never have to use this power, but there will never be a time that we are not the most powerful nation in the world." And as Secretary of Defense, Mad Dog James Mattis followed that up with a strongly worded statement that reads in part, "The DPRK must choose to stop isolating itself and stand down its pursuit of nuclear weapons. The DPRK should cease any consideration of actions that would lead to the end of its regime and the destruction of its people." And he continued with this, quote, "The DPRK regime's actions will continue to be grossly overmatched by ours and would lose any arms race or conflict it initiates." Now, this situation with North Korea is extraordinarily dangerous for the entire world. And as I said last night, there are no good solutions. And what the Trump administration is now facing is the direct result of the policies of appeasement, the policies of capitulation to North Korean dictators. Let's go back to 1994, the Clinton administration. They struck a deal with Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, whereas the New York Times reported the U.S. agreed to give North Korea, get this, $4 billion in energy aid over a 10-year period. Oh, with the promise in exchange that North Korea will freeze and eventually end their nuclear weapons program. Well, North Korea agreed, and guess what? They allowed inspectors into their nuclear sites but they also were allowed to keep their nuclear fuel rods, which of course can be used to make weapons. Despite these concerns, Bill Clinton patted himself on the back and said this is a good deal for the American people. Turned out not to be such a good deal. Take a look.
This is a good deal for the United States. North Korea will freeze and then dismantle its nuclear program. South Korea and our other allies will be better protected. The entire world will be safer as we slow the spread of nuclear weapons.
Well, as we now know, well, the world's not a safer place. Wasn't a good deal for the American people. Bill Clinton was dead wrong, and at the end of the 1990s, North Korea test-fired a long-range missile, and that's why back in 1999, on Meet the Press, let's see if the mainstream media shows you this, then private citizen Donald Trump with Tim Russert criticized Bill Clinton's horrible deal. Watch this.
Tim, do you know that this country went out and gave them nuclear reactors, free fuel for 10 years? We virtually tried to bribe them into stopping, and they're continuing to do what they're doing, and they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of dummies. I'm saying that we have to do something to stop.
But if the military told you, Mr. Trump, we can't do this.
You give me two names. You're giving me two names. I don't know. Do you want to do it in 5 years when they have warheads all over the place, every one of them pointing to New York City, to Washington, and every one of our... Is that when you want to do it, or do you want to do something now? You better do it now.
You better do it now. Then in 2006, the rogue regime conducted its first nuclear test. And under the Obama administration, what do we see? An acceleration of dangerous activity from North Korea, which leads us to this very dangerous, precarious situation we're at today.